A Husband's Discovery: How One New Year's Eve Changed Everything. Taylor here, back again with another story. Today's episode is about a wife who ruined her own marriage by having an affair. Her husband eventually discovered that she had been secretly exchanging messages with a co-worker for months. As a result, he had no choice but to divorce her. This story, originally shared on Reddit, is titled, "I checked my wife's phone records on New Year's Eve, and what I found changed everything." A devoted husband began noticing strange behavior from his wife on New Year's Eve. What started as a gut feeling led him to check their phone records, revealing months of hidden conversations with an unfamiliar number. The more he investigated, the clearer the truth became. His wife had been emotionally and possibly physically involved with a coworker. Now, let's be honest here. If your wife or girlfriend is secretly messaging another man, chances are it's not just emotional, it's physical too. Many people try to convince themselves that it's just harmless chatting, but in reality, it rarely stops there. The only real solution? Walk away. Cheating is a deal breaker, and staying in such a relationship only invites more heartbreak. The unfolding betrayal. On New Year's Eve, the wife told her husband she was going out for a drink with a trusted female coworker. Nothing unusual, right? But here's the thing. When a woman frequently goes out for drinks with her friends, especially without her partner, it's often a red flag. Many people argue that it's completely normal, but let's be real, it's risky for any relationship. Still, the husband trusted her. She reassured him that she would be home before midnight to celebrate with their children. However, as the clock struck 12, she was nowhere to be found. When she finally arrived home, she was emotional, distant, and in tears. When he asked what was wrong, she claimed she was upset because she had wanted to continue celebrating at a friend's house. Now, let's pause for a moment. Does that even make sense? She comes home crying, not because of an argument, not because something went wrong, but because she wanted to stay at a party? It sounds suspicious at best. Trying to be a supportive husband, he encouraged her to go back out and enjoy herself, completely unaware that this simple act of trust would lead to the biggest betrayal of his life. The breaking point. Hours passed. By 3 a.m., she still hadn't returned home. That was when everything started falling apart. He called her, but there was no answer. He tried again, still nothing. A deep sense of unease settled in. Something wasn't right. He reached out to the friend she was supposedly with, only to be met with silence. Then, finally, a text arrived. "Yeah, I'm still coming home tonight. We're still drinking." Something felt off. His gut told him something was seriously wrong. Unable to shake the feeling, he did something he had never done before. He checked the phone records. Now, some men might ignore the signs, but for him, the red flags were impossible to dismiss. A wife choosing to stay out drinking on New Year's, ignoring calls, but still texting in between? It didn't sit right. As he scrolled through the call logs, his stomach dropped. A number he didn't recognize kept appearing, one she had been in constant contact with all night. Ignoring his calls but messaging them? Digging further, the truth unraveled. This wasn't a one-time thing. For the past 3 months, she had been in daily contact with this number, exchanging hundreds of messages. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. His wife was having an emotional affair. But was it just emotional? Some men, blinded by hope, might stop there. They convince themselves that their marriages are still salvageable, that it's just texting. But the signs were undeniable. A woman ignoring her husband, staying out until 3 a.m., and secretly talking to another man? The truth was staring him in the face. Fueled by evidence and heartbreak, he confronted her over text. Instead of responding, she raced home, frantically deleting everything from her phone. She wiped it clean. No backups. No history. No way of knowing the truth. But if he had seen the phone records before, surely they were still there, right? Unless she had somehow wiped those too. Unlikely, but not impossible. Despite her frantic behavior, she insisted that nothing had happened. Nothing at all. She admitted to flirting but swore they never met in person. Nonsense. When he challenged her to restore the deleted messages to prove her innocence, she refused. "That's a violation of my privacy," she told him. The writing was on the wall.
Clear as day.
She wouldn't restore the messages because she couldn't. The truth would shatter the lies she had spun. And even if it was just an emotional affair, that was still enough. Betrayal is betrayal, whether physical or digital. If she wanted to flirt with other men, fine, let her go back to the streets. Let her pay her own bills. She made her choice. At this point, it wasn't about degrees of cheating. It was like a criminal arguing over whether they had 3 felonies or 10. Either way, no one was hiring them. Why should this be any different? 1 strike. That's all it should take. So he did what needed to be done. He told her he wanted a divorce. And that's when things took a darker turn. She exploded, yelling, lashing out, even getting aggressive. Then, unbelievably, she demanded he leave. Never mind that he was the one paying the rent.
Oh no.
Madam, get the hell out. By the next morning, she had flipped. It was as if nothing had happened. I don't even remember our argument, she claimed. But when confronted with the phone records again, the cracks in her story widened. She admitted to some emotional involvement, but swore, again, that they never met in person. His family only made things worse. His parents pressured him to stay. Work it out, they said. His brothers? She's lying.
Leave.
The internal conflict tore at him. And yet, why was there even a conflict? Some men let themselves be swayed by parents, by tradition, by fear of change. But a man should know his limits, his red lines. Now, the question remained, should he try to save the marriage for the sake of their children, or should he walk away from someone who had already betrayed him? The truth was, the marriage was already broken beyond repair. She broke it. Men tell themselves they should be the bigger person, try to make it work, especially for the kids. He had once understood that perspective. Maybe, just maybe, he could tolerate her for the sake of their children, keeping his distance but staying in the home. But in the end, what good was a home where trust no longer lived? The wife was the one who shattered it all. And some things can't be put back together. She was the one who destroyed it. If he left, it wasn't because he was giving up, it was because she had already made the choice for him. What was he supposed to do? Stay in the same house? Pretend everything was fine? The kids weren't stupid. They'd know the marriage was a lie. As the weeks passed, the evidence kept piling up. Text messages between her and her friends had massive gaps, entire sections suspiciously deleted from the time in question. Photos from her Google Drive, taken on New Year's Eve, had been selectively removed. Then came the final, damning clue. For a 2-hour window on New Year's Eve, her messages with her coworker had completely stopped. They only resumed at 3 a.m., the exact time he started calling her.
He knew what that meant.
My gut tells me she left her friend's place and went to his, he concluded. And yet, he kept searching for more proof.
But why?
The truth had been clear from the very beginning. More evidence wasn't going to bring him closure. It had been over since step 1. As the reality of divorce set in, she panicked. Suddenly, she was affectionate. She was initiating intimacy at every opportunity, handing over her phone and social media passwords as if that erased everything. But it was too little, too late. She begged for forgiveness, insisting she had instantly regretted telling her co-worker that she loved him. Funny how she called it a mistake, one that lasted 3 months. But her desperation wasn't about love. She didn't want to pay her own bills. She didn't want to be independent, to face the consequences of her actions. She wanted the security of the marriage without the responsibility of loyalty. And of course, she was only offering full transparency now, after scrubbing every trace of her affair. Women like this always say, "See, I'm being open and honest now," conveniently leaving out the part where they already deleted the evidence. In his state, a 1-year separation was required before the divorce could be finalized. He arranged for her to move in with her parents while he stayed home with the kids, supported by his brothers. But she didn't stop. Her pleas turned desperate. She even tried to use intimacy as a bargaining chip. "She offered me things I can't even say on YouTube if I stayed," he revealed. But it was never about physical affection. It was about trust, something that had been permanently shattered. The irony wasn't lost on him. She had no problem giving herself to another man. But with her own husband? Intimacy had always been a tool, something she controlled, something she withheld to get what she wanted.
Disgusting.
Despite losing contact with much of his family, who disapproved of the divorce, he remained steadfast. His focus was on his children and his own well-being. "I'd love to say I'm over it all, but I'm still healing," he admitted. "I really did love her and wish things had turned out differently." Ex-girlfriends had reached out, offering comfort. But he wasn't ready. "I need to focus on myself and my kids." A sad story, really. A man gets cheated on, stays blind to the truth for too long, but at least he follows through. He divorces her. He focuses on his children. And yet, it's insane how often this happens. Some women have everything: a stable home, a husband providing for them, a family, a future. And they throw it all away for a cheap thrill. They damage their families. They hurt the people who love them. Not that they care. They'll have the golden ticket, security, a man who takes care of them, a peaceful life. But still, they want more. They'll risk it all for a fleeting moment of excitement. And when it all comes crashing down, suddenly, they're the victims. Unbelievable,